Welcome back. This is the last video in the Solving Algebraic Equations series. So there are two other videos. The first one looked at level 1, where we just have addition or subtraction or multiplication or division on one side of the equation. Level 2 looked at what happens if we're combining some multiplication or division and addition or subtraction. And then level 3 looked at the case where we have some x's on both sides of the equation. In this video, we're going to look at two more levels. Level 4, where we have brackets on one or both sides of the equation. And then level 5 is where we have division on both sides or one side of the equation and how we can deal with that. So if we look at level 4 first, we need to get rid of our brackets. So see how we have 6 times x minus 2. So this means 6 times everything that's inside the brackets. So our first goal is to get rid of the brackets, and then it's just like solving a level 3 question. So let's look at what that would look like. If we look at level 4a, 6 times x minus 2 equals 15 plus 3x. There are no brackets on the right-hand side, so we don't have to worry about that. On the left-hand side, we have 6 times x minus 2. What that means is 6 times x and 6 times a negative 2. Remember that this negative, this minus 2, means it's a negative 2. So when we do our multiplication, we have to do 6 times negative 2. So 6 times x, remember we can just write as 6x. And then we have 6 times a negative 2, which is negative 12. And that equals 15 plus 3x. And now we're in the scenario we were in our last video, where we have some x's on both sides, some multiplication, some addition, and some subtraction. So let's draw our line straight through the equal sign. Remember, the first thing we need to do is get rid of the x's on one side of the equation. I'm going to get rid of these 3x's, so we have plus 3x, so we're going to subtract 3x. If we subtract 3x from this side, we have to subtract 3x from this side. We do that so that these go away. 6 minus 3 is 3x. We still have this minus 12 equals, and we have this 15 over here. Now, we're in level 2. We need to get rid of any addition or subtraction. So we have a minus 12. So let's add 12. See how we got rid of the x's on this side? If we get rid of x's on one side, we're going to get rid of the numbers on the other side. So we got rid of these x's. We'll get rid of this number. Minus 12, we do the opposite, plus 12. If I add 12 to this side, I have to add 12 to the other side. These go away. 3x equals 15 plus 12, which is 27. And then our last step, 3x, which is 3 times x, and we get rid of multiplication by dividing. If we divide one side by 3, we have to divide the other side by 3. So those 3's go away, and we're left with x equals 27 divided by 3, which is 9. So over here, x equals 9. Let's take a look at this next example. It's almost identical to the first example, except that we have brackets on both sides of the equals sign. And it just means, like we did this multiplication on one side, we'll do the same thing on both sides. So let's take a look at that example. We have 3 times 4 plus 3x equals 4 times 2 plus x. So remember, this means 3 times 4 and 3 times 3x, and then 4 times 2 and 4 times x. So 3 times 4 is 12. 3 times 3x is 9x. So there's a positive, so it's a positive 9x. So plus 9x equals 4 times 2 is 8, and 4 times x is 4x. Now let's draw our line and do some solving. We'll get rid of the x's on one side and the numbers on the other side. So let's get rid of the x's on the right. We have a plus 4x, so we'll subtract 4x. Remember, our x's have to line up here. We still have our 12. And then we have 9x minus 4x, which is 5x. These 4x's go away, that's why we had it, and we're left with 8. And then we'll subtract 12 from both sides, and we are left with 5x equals negative 4. Right? These 12's go away. 8 minus 12 is negative 4. Finally, we need to get rid of this multiplication, right? 5 times x, so we'll divide both sides by 5. And we're left with x equals negative 4 over 5. Negative 4 over 5. And if you want to, you can turn that into a decimal, which is the same thing as x equals negative 0.8. You can leave it as a fraction or turn it into a decimal. It's really your preference. So for this example, x equals negative 0.8. Here's the last level for solving algebraic equations, and that's level 5. This was multiplication, right? These brackets meant multiplication. Here we have some division going on both sides. So let's take a look at how we would solve that. The first thing we need to do is cross multiply, right? Which means the numerator, the top number or sets of numbers on one side, gets multiplied by the bottom of the other side. It's like we're drawing an X. So those two get multiplied and these two get multiplied. So let's take a look at this. We have 3x plus 2 all divided by 4 equals 2 minus 6x all divided by 5. So remember what I said. This whole thing is going to get multiplied by 5, and this whole thing is going to get multiplied by 4. It's like we're making an x and doing that multiplication. So this is the same thing as 5 times 3x plus 2, right? The bottom times the top, equals 4 times 2 minus 6x. Putting these brackets in is really important because we have to remember that it's 4 times everything up here, not just 4 times whatever comes first. And the same with this. It's 5 times everything up here, not just 5 times one of these two numbers. Now that we have this written out, we can solve it like we solved our earlier examples. 5 times 3x is 15x. 5 times 2 is a plus 10, equals 4 times 2, which is 8. And 4 times negative 6 is negative 24. We have our x's, so it's negative 24x. Let's draw our line and do some solving. We'll get rid of the x's on one side and the numbers on the other side. So let's get rid of the x's on the right. We have a negative 24x, so let's add 24x. If we add 24x on one side, we have to add 24x on the other side. So 15 plus 24 is 39x plus 10 equals 8, and these go away. Now, we got rid of the x's on one side, so we get rid of the numbers on the other side. We have a plus 10, so we'll subtract 10. We have a 39x here, that stays. Our 10's go away. 8 minus 10 is a negative 2. And the last step is to get rid of this division. So we'll divide both sides by 39. When we do that, we get x equals negative 2 over 39, which is the same thing as negative 0.05. So that's how we deal with it if we have an division of fraction on both sides of the equal sign. Let's do one last example. In this example, we have a fraction here, but not here. We're going to solve it the exact same way. So let's write this out. We have 8x plus 3 divided by 2 equals 2 plus 3x. In this last example, we wanted to do some cross multiplication. And we want to do the same thing here, except this side isn't a fraction. Well, we can make it into a fraction. To make it into a fraction, we're going to write our line divided by, and we're just going to write a 1 underneath here. So we can turn anything into a fraction by dividing by 1, and it doesn't change this number. Now that we have this, we can do our cross multiplication. So we have 1 times 8x plus 3 equals 2 times 2 plus 3x. If we do our multiplication, 1 times 8x is just 8x, and 1 times 3 is 3. 2 times 2 is 4, and 2 times 3x is 6x. Now we can draw our line. We'll get rid of the x's on one side and the numbers on the other side. So let's get rid of this 6x. We'll subtract 6x from both sides. 8x minus 6x leaves 2x. We still have this plus 3. These 6's go away, and we have a 4 left over on this side. We got rid of the x's on the right, so let's get rid of the numbers on the left. We have a plus 3. We'll do the opposite, minus 3. So these go away, and we have 2x equals 4 minus 3, which is 1. Finally, we'll get rid of this 2 times x. So we'll divide by 2. If we divide one side by 2, we divide the other side by 2. These go away, and we're left with x equals 1/2, or 1 divided by 2, which is 0.5. So that's the most difficult algebraic expressions that you're going to see in this course. So if you can solve levels 1 through 5, you are good to go for the rest of the year.